Welcome. We have, of course, a lot of things to talk about today. We're going to be talking about the Equifax CEO. Now, you know this guy. We talked about Equifax. They had a major hack, lost tons and tons and tons of personal information. So we'll talk a little bit about him because he's in the news again, and not for the reason you might hope, okay? Microsoft, if you are running Windows 7 or Windows Server 2008. We've got a major security advisory for you on that one. We'll talk a little bit about the 5 things you should do immediately if your iPhone is stolen, what the best laptop is when it comes to security. Frankly, it might surprise you here. And so we'll talk about some options on that as well. Google's got a new fake news initiative going on, and there's a new privacy tool out that is similar to one I've been using for my clients for a long time. Right now it's free, so we'll tell you about that. I think it's very good. And we're going to talk a little bit about the 7 risks that you might be facing out there if you have a small business and the security guys are out to get you. Well, the bad guys are out to get you. Stick around. Here we go. Okay, we are on the air. Another busy morning. Output has severe performance issues. Yeah, no kidding. My poor little thing, my poor little laptop. Turn down my volume on my headphones. I had a couple of people ask about these. You notice they're different, eh? See? They're bone conduction headphones. So I can wear them like if I'm out going for a walk or whatever, and I can hear everything going on around me. So I've got Karen here in the studio with me. We've got the producer, board ops. We have other people who talk to me during the show. So it lets me kind of hear them, you, and what's going on right here. So we're back on the air. All right, welcome. I've had a very busy week this week. It's been crazy picking up new clients like crazy. There is so much security problem, what's the right word, but anxiety out there, and for good reason. We've never been worse when it comes to security stuff. So let's see, let's talk about Microsoft here. We've got 2 different articles about Microsoft. That's how we'll start the show today. We have the article about their major security problem. Now, I want to get to that, but I want to tell you about something else first. Let me see, where did I put that article? Microsoft, here we go. The end of Windows. Now, if you are on my email list, and right now the only way to subscribe is to text me your email, because we've got the new site. It's mostly working now, but I noticed this morning that we didn't put the subscribe page back up. It's craigpeterson.com/subscribe. But I think on the homepage you can subscribe. So if you just go to craigpeterson.com, you can subscribe. But I send out my show notes every Saturday morning. And in the show notes, we talk about all these different articles. So there's the stuff we don't get to on the air. I sometimes get to with Facebook or YouTube Lives, but you always get that if you're on the email list. So again, craigpeterson.com. This is absolutely amazing. You know who, obviously, you've got to, right? You know who the founder of Microsoft was, right? You know who his successor was, right? So you had Bill Gates. He was the founder. And then you had that sweaty guy who used to dance around on stage and embarrass everybody, Steve Ballmer. Both of those guys were firmly committed to Windows. And, you know, it used to make sense. Windows was necessary in order for Microsoft to have other products, right? The whole concept originally at Microsoft was an operating system. You know, we talked about the whole story behind how Bill Gates had kind of cheated IBM and cheated the Seattle Software Works in order to get the MS-DOS stuff together, and some of the stuff he did there, which I think is very underhanded, as do many other people. So they got the company off to a great start by doing things that were very unethical, and in fact, some people claim even illegal. Well, he came up with this operating system. Obviously, he didn't, but, you know, They started selling it. And then they took that to the next level, They had Windows, and then they came out with Office. And the whole idea behind Office, of course, was to compete with the WordPerfects and WordStars that had been out there, some of the editors I used to use many years ago. But in order for them to be able to run their software appropriately, adequately, they needed the operating system. So fast forward to Steve Ballmer, and Steve Ballmer made some just incredible statements. He reminds me of some of the things that President Trump says, just completely off the wall. Where did that come from? And Steve Ballmer was all about Windows. We got to have Windows. Windows is the core. We are a hardware company as well. And they started making hardware. Remember, they started making the Windows Phone, and they licensed the operating system to other people so they could make Windows phones. And then they bought Nokia because Nokia was going to be the answer. They were going to make Windows phones, and Windows phones were going to just totally obliterate Apple and the whole iPhone, right? And then they said, okay, well, let's have our tablets. We're going to have Surface tablets. They're going to be great. And so they paid the NFL to use Surface tablets. And you remember the Bill Belichick story of he was so frustrated with it. They called it, I think, a piece of, well, we'll say a piece of crap here on the radio. But then he took it and he threw it and he broke it. And you had people on CNN who were using their Surface tablets when they were on the air, and they had them up there. I remember seeing those on CNN. But behind the Surface tablet was an iPad. They were using the Surface tablet as a holder for their iPads, right? And so Microsoft got kind of mad about those things, and Bill Belichick got straightened out by management over at the NFL. And because Microsoft is a big sponsor, we got to do this, we got to use their stuff. And I'm not a Microsoft fan, okay? I kind of like the Apple stuff. I really like iOS, at least as it is so far. But I do not have any money in this game either way, okay, between the two of them. So Ballmer continued to really pursue the operating system called Windows and the Office strategy, and he started a few cloud strategies, and then things started to fall apart. We had Microsoft getting rid of the Nokia division. Remember that? And that wasn't too long ago. No longer making Windows phones. We had Microsoft give the division that was doing the Windows mobile operating system to the main Windows management and cut them off on their own. And Windows management realized, hey, listen, we're not making any money off of this. We are losing a lot of money due to the Windows phone, Windows mobile operating system, so we are going to axe it. And just this week, I got a call. We deal with some of the largest distributors in the world, right? Obviously, because my company sells hardware and mostly security components, a lot of Cisco, the top shelf stuff. But we got a call from one of our distributors because she knew I would love to hear this. Complete discontinuation of the Microsoft Surface tablet family. Gone. They are no longer selling, at least the distributor isn't. And I think we will hear some more announcements to clarify exactly what's going on. It is gone. The largest distributor in the world, gone, no longer selling it. So now we enter in, after Steve Ballmer left, and it was a good thing he did leave, enter in the new management. And that's what we're going to talk about when we get back here in just a minute. Because Nadella had a real Windows problem. And what was he going to do about it? We'll talk about his first strategy memo when it comes to Microsoft. He's changing everything over there. Stick around. We'll be right back. If you have any questions, you can text me here in studio or anytime during the week, 855-385-5553. That's 855-385-5553. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right. This is just amazing. I don't know about you guys. Some of you I know are business owners. Some of you as business owners are concerned about marketing and sales, right? You have to be, because if you're not getting new clients, you are going to die, because eventually those clients will leave you, hopefully later than sooner. In my case, I have clients I've had for 25 years, and in one case. So I tend to keep them for a long time. So I decided I needed to get the word out, right? How do I get the word out about security? And I've been, you've been watching this podcast or listening to, my podcast or listening to my radio show for a long time. You know what's happening. You know that I really want people to wise up and do the right thing and get the right thing going, right? That's been a big deal of mine for a very long time. Well, here's what's happening right now. I decided I'm going to go full bore and get this information out. So I sent out, if you got my email this morning, you would have seen in that, right at the very top, a little thing that is an invite to my webinar. What was it we decided this morning, Karen?
It's the web briefing room.
Yeah, we're calling this our web briefing room because we're going to do a briefing. Now remember, I have all of this FBI stuff, right? And I should talk about that a little bit on the air. I just got the paperwork from them, by the way, Karen. They want me to sign. Did you see that? There's like 6 different things. There's a sexual harassment policy and all this other stuff, FBI-related type stuff. But anyways, how do I get that information out to people? And obviously, there's some information I cannot share. By law, I cannot share, right? So how do I help people take advantage of the information I can't share? Well, obviously that's through providing them a service, right? Because I can use it, my internal teams can use it to protect critical infrastructure and to protect businesses here in the U.S. So that's what we're doing now, and it's kind of cool. So make sure, because we this Thursday are doing a webinar, and again, I'll mention this on the air, but you got to attend this thing. Absolutely have to attend this thing. So anyhow, we'll get back to the radio show here in just a minute. Make sure you thumbs up. I meant to mention this at the beginning. Got to remember that, because if you thumbs up this Facebook Live, it gets shared with more people. And the earlier on you thumbs up, the better. Really, it has to be done within the first 10 minutes of the Facebook Live. So if you wouldn't mind right now, thumbs up, because that's going to get the information shared more by Facebook. That's how their programming works, or algorithms work, in order for them to decide whether or not something's worth sharing with your friends or other people. So thumbs up. Here we go. We're coming back. All right, welcome back to Nerd Central. We're turning into a briefing room this week. Now, you know about my FBI involvement, albeit a little bit if you've been listening for a long time. For those that don't know, the FBI has something called the InfraGard program, and I'm a proud member of InfraGard. And this is the infrastructure protection people in the private sector. And so the FBI provides some, it's nothing top secret or anything, but some confidential information to people who are responsible for protecting critical infrastructure. And that information is great, and I've been getting that daily now, those daily briefings, for quite a while. So I've been trying to figure out, how do I get this information out to more people? How do I help more people? So this Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will have a replay, but this Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, I want to invite everybody to attend a webinar. So you can go to craigpeterson.com/webinar. Now, on this webinar, we're going to go through the top 7 tips here that my FBI briefings have taught me. What is the FBI saying about security, about safety? What do you need to know? How can your business benefit from this? And what kind of problems might you have, frankly, if you are a business person, or even if you're just a lay person? I'm inviting everyone onto this, although this is aimed mainly for my business customers, but anyone can attend. It is all information. It's going to be fantastic for you. There's only one way to do that, and that is to sign up. You're going to have to go to craigpeterson.com/webinar. If you have any problems doing that, make sure you send me an email, just me@craigpeterson.com. But webinar this Thursday, 4 p.m., make sure you're there. We got some great information for you. All right, back to our friends over at Microsoft. Remember, Microsoft has Windows operating system. We were talking about that before the break. They've gone through two very kind of dynamic, especially Steve Ballmer, CEOs here over the years. And Steve Ballmer wrote a memo, and he insisted that Windows was the future of Microsoft. He says, this is a direct quote, "I am convinced that by deploying our smart cloud assets across a wide range of devices, we can make Windows devices once again the devices to own." And he goes on, he talks about a lot of this. Now we've got new management in there, and their new CEO is talking about a major different game, talking about the dysfunctionality within Microsoft. And that's going to lead us in a minute here to this major security hole that was discovered this week in Microsoft. So they've got this cursive culture inside Microsoft, and he's trying to change all of that. So did you notice soon after he took over at Microsoft, Nadella, as soon as he took over, one of the very first things you saw was Microsoft Office on the iPad. Did you notice that? Yeah, I certainly did. I thought this was incredible because I remember hearing rumors that Steve Ballmer, their former CEO, had said it will never happen. Office will never be on the iPad. And remember, for the longest time, they were not updating Office for the Mac OS either, for the laptops or for their other machines over at Apple. So a month after he took over, out it came. Obviously, Microsoft already had it, right? No, they didn't they didn't have a team working 24/7 for a month to come up with Office for the iPad. This is something that Steve Ballmer had obviously started, right? But Ballmer said he would not release it, so he made some concessions that he would not release it until Windows 8 had a touchscreen version. And a lot of people went on to wonder if he would ever have released it at all. So it's interesting because the delay that Ballmer put on releasing Office for iOS gave Nadella a very easy win. And there has been a major mind shift over at Microsoft with him. And it wasn't just on this. This major mindset has moved throughout the entire company. Microsoft no longer, as of this week, has a Windows operating system division. Okay? Did you hear that? Yeah, you heard it right. Microsoft no longer has a Windows operating system division. Nadella reorganized the company last week. They now have two divisions, two teams is what he's calling them. They have the Experiences and Devices team. So that's focused on end user productivity. And they have a cloud and AI team that's all about building the platform of the future. Okay? So Windows was a problem for Microsoft. And now it's interesting to read Nadella's memo, which was almost exactly the opposite of the Steve Ballmer memo that he wrote. Steve Ballmer wrote 2 months before he left Microsoft. So here we go. Trust me when I say demoting Windows all the way to this point in the letter is a dramatic shift. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that Steve Ballmer said nothing is more important at Microsoft than Windows. Nadella didn't even mention Windows for the first 2,000 words of his memo. A very, very different message here. So it's phenomenal. It's world-changing. And by the way, Surface only appeared twice, and Nokia only appeared once in the memo. So that might tie in nicely with why one of my distributors called and said, hey, no more Microsoft Surface tablet. Thank you. I thought you'd like to hear about that. So again, I don't know if that's just that my distributor is not going to carry it or Microsoft is shooting it in the head. So obviously, there's a short-term problem for Microsoft. People are using Windows. So how much attention are they paying, for on this whole Windows thing? So if we go back to January 2015, Nadella said, quote, "We absolutely believe that Windows is home for the very best of Microsoft experiences. There's nothing subtle about the strategy. It's a practical approach, which is customer first." So he, at that time, was really pushing for a Microsoft-only experience, including the operating system. Obviously, now things have changed. This is his second reorganization that I remember, anyways. And he completely, in his first reorganization, Nadella completely undid Steve Ballmer's ill-considered reorganization from a divisional company to a functional organization. Very interesting. But you look at the stats, look at the sales, look at the Wall Street value of Microsoft, and you see Windows is at its end. It will be going away. Isn't that interesting? It's going to be around, obviously. But how much attention is Microsoft paying to Windows now? That brings us to this. I was going to send out a special alert about this week, and I did not. Maybe I should have, but that's the way it goes, I guess, sometimes. But Microsoft trying to deal with an Intel problem. Now, you might remember the Windows, or not Windows, the Intel problem. Sometimes it's hard to separate Intel from Microsoft. But there was a major issue with something called Meltdown, okay, where the Intel processor had a security problem, right? Well, now Microsoft came up with this out-of-cycle patch. Hey, update your machines. This will fix the vulnerability to this whole meltdown problem caused by Intel. And so people dutifully applied the patches because they were afraid, and they were legitimately afraid. This was a real problem, right? What should they do? Well, it's going to slow down your computer, but that's okay, life's good. So Microsoft, obviously, they responded to this problem, right? Well, it turns out that their fix, Microsoft's fix for the Intel bug, made machines 100% vulnerable. Whereas before it was a little difficult. You could get Meltdown to work, and but you had to play some games, and it was in the wild, but not very much in the wild. So if you are running the 64-bit version of Windows 7, which almost half of the people who are running Windows are, or if you're running Windows Server 2008, specifically there are two, again for 64-bit systems, which most people are, your machines have 100% vulnerability. Anybody can use, anybody can drive a freight train through. So you might want to patch again. Microsoft rushed out another fix for the major hole caused by their other fix that was released because of an Intel problem. Does that tell you something about whether or not Microsoft is paying much attention to our friends who are using Windows? Yeah, it really looks like Windows users are going to be left out to dry yet again. Okay, when we get back, we are going to talk about Equifax and their CEO. And he's in the news again for something I think a lot of people are going to be as upset as I was about this. We'll talk about the 5 things you should do immediately if your phone is stolen. And what is the safest laptop out there? If safety is kind of your number one factor, what should you be looking at? Talk about all of that and more. Of course, you're listening to Craig Peterson. You'll find us online, craigpeterson.com. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Somebody just wrote on your e-security page. Craig, I'm getting a window opening on my Google Chrome app that's telling me I have a virus and stealing my data, and to not close the window. I scanned and there's no virus.
Yeah.
It keeps coming back. Suggestions? Question mark.
Yeah, we just got a question over on one of my groups, on my e-security coach group. Yeah, we'll have to answer a little bit. Well, let's answer that on the air, and then I'll send a direct thing for him. Also, double check. Make sure if you go to craigpeterson.com/webinar that you can subscribe. Okay, right now, double check that for me. Okay, let me clear my throat again. So I've got another one of my techs out west. This is my son Steve. He's at a week now at a fire jumper course for security and some of the security training. Does it work? Okay, good. It's working perfectly. Good. Good to see that. It is crazy what's going on. Yeah. Did Ike's respond to that?
I don't know.
Oh, you haven't paid attention. Okay, that's fine.
I'm trying to get everything else.
That makes sense. Man, I'm a little cloggy this morning.
This is on
I clear it up. I meant to bring some. Thanks.
you want to oh, this is
All right, we are ready to go. The joys of live, right? To listen and watch me take a drink of water or cough. Oh, well. I appreciate you being with me. Don't forget the thumbs up and comments. Hey, welcome back. We are talking about some of the latest technology news items for the week. And you know, I do security for a living, and I kind of have for about 30 years. So there's a bit of an emphasis on the security side, so forgive me for that. But let's talk about our friend over at Equifax, Richard Smith. Remember Richard Smith? He's the former Equifax chief executive who was at the head of Equifax during its massive breach. Now, remember the breach? Yeah, a couple 100 million people's personal information leaked out. Who cares, right? Does that really matter? And of course it matters. That's why we started offering dark web searches. That's why Equifax is offering, if you pay them, is offering to monitor your credit for you. I saw a stat. I wish I had it in front of me. I think it was like $2 billion the credit card companies have made from people signing up for credit monitoring. Now that makes you kind of wonder about this, right? What were they doing? What was Equifax doing? Why did they lose over 200 million people's identities? Was it because they were ignorant? Was it because no one has the technology to protect it? Obviously, that's not true, right? Was it because they figured they might make a couple extra $1 billion if the information gets out and people have to hire companies like mine to do dark web stuff for them, intelligence reports? Or maybe it was because they had the ability to sell you credit monitoring services that they could make extra money on. Makes you wonder, right? So anyhow, Richard Smith, former Equifax chief executive, not only did he mess up and lose 200 million people's personal identity, but they completely botched the response. Well, old Dick, he's getting nearly a $1 million pay raise for his work last year, Equifax said on Monday. Doesn't that make you feel good? He got an extra $1 million. Smith, who resigned in September, this is from the New York Post, will bring home $15.7 million in total compensation for 2017. That's up about 5% from the previous year. And that's according to Equifax's annual report. So he's the top executive. Hackers breached Equifax's outdated security. They stole the personal data of a couple 100 million people, at least 150 million Americans. One of the worst breaches in history. And what does he get? $1 million in extra compensation. Now, I got to admit that much of his increase was due to a new $1.4 million stock options award, as well as a pension fund that more than doubled to $6.5 million. Now, that's according to Equifax's annual report. So, wait a minute. He botches it badly. Equifax's stock price goes up? Because why? Because they're making more money charging us to monitor our credit? Really? Really? We've got to stop rewarding companies that are doing this kind of stuff and stop rewarding the top executives that mess up our lives. The average person who had their identity stolen and whose identity was fraudulently used ends up spending hundreds of hours trying to clear up their identity. Okay? In the worst cases, the stats are 500 hours during working hours too. Because remember, you can't call the bank to dispute a loan on a Maserati that you didn't buy in the evenings. You can't call them in the evening. They're not, the right people aren't there. You have to talk to their fraud division during normal working hours. Okay? Which might be, they might use it in Hawaii. So, you got another 8-hour time shift that you might have to take into account. We got to stop this, people. Don't reward these guys. Okay, what happens if your phone is stolen? Now, you've got to act really, really fast, and there's a great article that I shared with you up on my website, again, craigpeterson.com. You'll see it up there on the homepage. But number one, hopefully it wasn't really stolen, it's just lost. So you call your phone, that's the easiest thing to do. Or if you have an iPhone, use Find My Phone. There's a lost mode on it where it makes this sound. It sounds like sonar. Beep, 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 beep. And it'll tell you where it is on a map. Hopefully, if you don't have an iPhone and you don't have Find My iPhone turned on, you do have some sort of GPS app that lets you track your phone so that you can find it, okay? So, number one, most cases, it probably wasn't really stolen. It was just lost. Hopefully, you can find it. Turn on that tracking app. Android, you've got the Android device manager that you can use to track it. iOS users, you've got Find My iPhone, which should be turned on no matter what, by the way, because it absolutely protects your iPhone. If you turn on Find My iPhone, even if a bad guy takes your phone, tries to wipe it, they cannot use your iPhone without your iCloud account information, okay? But you can use it to track and see where your phone is. And if you have an iPhone again, you can, with Find My iPhone, remotely wipe your iPhone so that it is completely useless, okay? It's going to reboot, it's going to come up, it's going to ask for your iCloud information in order to get back on it. Next, call your wireless carrier, Verizon, AT&T, Mobile, T-Mobile, I should say, Sprint. They've all got contact people that you can call to let them know your phone was lost or stolen. At least that way you're not going to get charges on the phone anymore. One of my employees, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, had her iPhone stolen, and she did have Find My iPhone, so that stolen iPhone was completely useless. It was a pickpocket, completely useless to them. But at any rate, you can get that process started to get a replacement. There's certain insurances that will cover a lost or stolen iPhone. Most will not. The next step, make sure you call the police. You need to file a police report. They're probably not going to do anything to help you find your phone, but you need to get it on record that you reported it lost in case some of that information is used fraudulently. Yeah, that's what we did with Find My iPhone. Karen, my wife, was just asking me here in studio, what did we do with my brother? We were over in France, and we were on a subway in France. And my brother, this was in Paris, in the subway. My brother looks and smells and sounds like a tourist, okay, in Paris. He had the big camera around his neck with the big lens sticking out. And, yeah, he had his hat on. What's that? Made in Canada. The Tilly hat. He had his Tilly hat on, totally playing the role of a tourist over there in Paris. And so we're on the subway, And I'm different, right? I have a little backpack on, and it's one of those slice-proof backpacks that can't be pickpocketed, that can't be sliced open so the contents fall out. It's a secure backpack, right? That's me. That's what I do. And so the bad guys, the pickpockets know, okay, this guy, Craig, he's useless. We're never going to get the stuff out of him. There's a much easier mark standing next to him, which turned out to be his brother. So they reached in. Now, my brother, I can't believe he did this. My brother was totally prepared, right? Yeah, totally prepared. He had a wallet that held his iPhone, his cash, his driver's license, and his passport. Everything in one wallet. And guess what happened? The pickpocket took his wallet with everything in it, including his passport. Remember, his money, his credit cards, his iPhone. He took it, he stole everything from him, right? And I'm kind of the exact opposite. I keep my wallet in one of my front pockets so that it can't be easily picked, right? Because it's not in the rear, which is the easiest place to steal a wallet. Plus, it's better for my lower back. You know, and I have all of the information about my credit cards right there, so I can call immediately any of the credit card companies, any of the issuers. I got all of the numbers. I got everything, right? That's me, Mr. Over-Prepared, the engineer. So it can happen, but you got to call the police, and that's what we did. And of course, I was Mr. Translator for him because the police didn't speak any English at all. We got the report filed. And by the way, they did recover the phone because we pulled up, find my iPhone, we found his iPhone, we reported it to the police, who actually followed up on this, probably because it was a tourist and there were credit cards and cash and a ID and a American passport in there. So they did follow up, they did go to the place, they did find the guy, they arrested him, charged him, and called us back, and had my brother actually ID the pickpocket. So it was kind of an interesting experience. Little trip to Paris there. How's that for fun? So give the police a description of the phone. For iPhones, you can find it in iTunes. Samsung users may need to check the box a phone came in or register the devices with Samsung. Write down the serial number, which is the IMEI or MEID number. What I do is I go to the settings on my iPhone, and there's an about page, and you can drill right down, and then I take a snapshot of it and I email it off so that I have a picture that has all of the codes, the secret codes really, that are used for my phone. And that way, the authorities can track it down if it shows up in a pawn shop on eBay or in a bust somewhere, right? And the police, again, they're not going to do much more than take the report. You know, what are they going to do about it? It's rare that they act like the police in Paris did and found my brother's phone. And then you have the option of wiping your phone remotely. So it might be totally disheartening to have to delete all of your photos and everything on there. Hopefully you were using iCloud backup, so all your photos went up there or something similar. But because you can get them all back if you have to get a new phone. But it's a last resort. But if someone's able to crack your phone, you don't want them to be able to get at that information to steal your data. It's especially true if you have personal information, credit cards, et cetera, on your device. Okay, so you can when you call your wireless carrier, they can usually help you out with getting that information removed from your phone, getting it deleted and erased. Okay, we got another break here. Again, don't forget, visit me online, craigpeterson.com. You can sign up for my weekly emails. And this Thursday at 4 p.m., we are having a special briefing. I'm going to go through the top 7 threats according to the FBI. And I've gone through all of these threats. What does the FBI think is important for you to know, particularly as a business person, and what can you do about it? I'm going to have a briefing. You can sign up for that. Go to craigpeterson.com/webinar, and we will have all that information this Thursday, 4 p.m. craigpeterson.com/webinar, and all the information about it is right there. You can sign up. Okay, when we get back, we're going to talk about the most secure laptop that's available today. What do the security experts use when they're going into unknown territory? Stick around. You're listening to Craig Peterson, and we will be right back. Okay, so now we are in commercial break, and I'm going to boil that water from you again, Karen. Here, kind of. So this Thursday on our briefing, here's what I'm going to be covering. You're going to learn what legacy software does to your security stance and how some of it can be used to compromise your entire business. We just saw that this week. In fact, yesterday, we were out at a brand new client site, and the devastation to his business, just amazing. And the amount of malware and spyware and remote access software we found on their computers was amazing. Which legacy software is the most dangerous and needs to be updated immediately? The risks of patching versus not patching software. Is old equipment a risk? And why? What are the risks of email? Which risks does spam email present? Who should perform penetration testing and how often? What can pen testing uncover? What are the recommendations for backups? And by the way, restore is important, right? Why are you backing up? Is there a difference between a backup to protect from malware and a backup needed after a fire? Because those are both potentially very different events. And which elements of a cybersecurity program does my business need? Now, obviously, in one briefing session, we're not going to be able to cover all of this, okay? So what we're going to do is have this one Thursday at 4 p.m., and then we are going to get into it in more detail through other webinars and briefing sessions that we'll be holding. But you got to sign up for the first one in order to find out about some of these others, and you got to get started there. So craigpeterson.com/webinar, and we will we'll get you set up. And we've got to change that to, or add anyways, /briefing. So that people know that the briefing's out there. So remind me to do that. That's easy enough to do. I'm not going to get to this today, but Google's saying they're putting $300 million into a new news initiative. It's really not going to do much about fake news, but what it is going to do is produce more revenue for Google, because Google is going to be taking payments for newspapers. So you can subscribe for online newspaper subscriptions directly from Google. Oh, the next Cold War. It's already here and it's all about data, but we probably won't get to that today. Oh well, here we go. Coming back. Okay, I got to answer right now two questions. We had one asked. I've got a special online group on Facebook, the eSecurity Coach, for my clients, and we do let radio show listeners into the group as well. So if you want to ask questions, talk to the group. There's a lot of chatting back and forth between group members as well about what they're doing, what they think, and we post all of these articles that we talk about today, plus the ones we don't get to on the air. We post all of them in my eSecurity Coach group, as well as on my Twitter feed and my regular Facebook feed as well. So it's all together kind of in one place. But there was a question that was asked, and Karen pointed it out to me here during the show today, that's I think probably worth answering. So Karen, what was the exact question that he had? Okay, she's going to look that up. He was saying, here's the bottom line, okay? He was asking about his browser. Now, I had someone else ask this question last week as well. No, it was this week. It was one of our clients. He's using Google Chrome. That's fine, don't worry about it. Using the Google Chrome browser, and this can happen on any browser. And he's getting this pop-up saying that I've seen a couple of different variations of this, but one is there's spam coming in that we've blocked. I've seen another one which is your machine has been compromised, you need to run our antivirus software. A common one, that's a common one on Macs, by the way, and they'll try and get you to buy Mac Keeper or some of this other software that is actually more spyware than software that's going to help you out, okay? In this case, it said that it was a virus, excuse me, a virus stealing his data and needed to do something about it. He said he went and ran his antivirus. Now, first of all, I got to say, the normal antivirus software is not enough today. At best, it detects about 60% of the malware that's out there. Okay, so even though you run your antivirus, there's a very good chance that you actually are still infected. However, in this case, the most likely scenario is that there's a hidden window, there's a pop-up on one of the websites you visited. Sometimes these come in through ad networks, and Google has tried to crack down on it, as has Facebook and others, and they haven't been terribly successful. But an ad is purchased, an ad comes up on a website that you're on. The website might not be malicious, the website might not even be hacked, and it has a little window that's hidden, that's maybe 1 pixel wide, or it's running some JavaScript and it's pulling stuff in from another website, and it's a window in your Chrome browser that's making this happen. So that's a pretty likely scenario. So the trick is close all of the windows in your Chrome browser, all of the tabs you have open individually, right? Every one of them, and then start up Chrome again. See if that warning comes up again. If it does, this is a deeper problem that needs to be looked into, but almost certainly that's going to solve your problem. And the other trick is do a search for the exact wording that is showing up in your browser window, because that search may well reveal someone else that's had it and how they solved that problem, okay? But that's probably going to solve your problem for you. And I'll try and answer that directly in the group as well, in the eSecurity Coach group. Okay, the next question here. This is probably the most common question I get asked, and it's oftentimes it's from our more senior citizens who are out there. What is the most secure laptop for me, or desktop computer, whatever it might be? What should I be using? And so I want to share something with you. This is a little tip from the security people who are out there. You know, Windows is a terrible platform, a terrible operating system if you want to be secure, right? It's got huge vulnerabilities. They seem to be discovered almost weekly. It is the most common operating system out there, and it allows you to install software. It is not well containered. It was Microsoft, terrible design for an operating system, just terrible. But you've heard me say that before. Apple is way better than Microsoft, but it is not immune from security risks. So if you lock it down, you're probably reasonably secure. Now, why would you choose Apple or Microsoft? Almost always it's because of two things. It's what you know, and a lot of people don't want to switch to Apple from Microsoft because they know Windows. And the second reason people use them is the app that they need only runs on Windows or only runs on the Mac, okay? So if you have to run a particular app, you might be stuck on Windows, or you might be able to move to a Mac. If what you're looking for is a very secure platform, and if what you do most of the time can be done on the web, or nowadays can be done with Android apps, you really need to look at Chromebooks. In fact, when it comes to senior citizens who are asking me, what should I use? And all other considerations aside, they want to go online, they want to watch some video, they want to go on Facebook, they want to chat with their family and friends, they want to go to the community bulletin board, they want to do all of this stuff. The answer is Chromebook. Buy a Chromebook. These things are cheap now. You can get them for just over $100. If you lose it, if you break it, it was $150. It wasn't $300 or $1,000, or you can get Apple laptops for as much as $5,000, right? So a few $100 for a good Chromebook is nothing. $150 is where they start from. These things are very secure, although when they were designed, security wasn't the problem it is today. But have a look at a Chromebook. That's what security guys and gals use when they're going into unknown territories. It's a great little platform. And they're portable, they're cheap, they last all day on a battery charge. It's just wonderful. Okay, we only got about a minute left here. I've got to point out again, if you haven't already signed up, take a few minutes. The information that's going to be in this briefing I'm giving on Thursday will be invaluable. It's this Thursday. You can find all of the details online. Just go to craigpeterson.com/webinar. We're going to review some of these topics here from my radio shows that we couldn't get into, but we are going to talk about what I found are the 7 most important security risks that the FBI has identified. If you are involved in a small business, medium business, you got to attend, because we're going to tell you what to do. And then we're going to have a series of these. Remember, we had a series last fall, very well attended. We can fill this whole thing up. You need to register now. craigpeterson.com/webinar. And you can do that on your mobile device or your desktop. craigpeterson.com/webinar. Have a great week. We'll be back next week. Check your emails for the articles that we could not cover today. And I hope you have a great week. And I hope spring finally hits. You've been listening to Craig Peterson. And of course, we'll be back same time next week. Bye-bye. Okay, so we are off the air now on our radio stations. And I'm going to bid you adieu here on Facebook. I'd also like to know, some people don't like Facebook. Some people avoid Facebook basically at all costs. And that's kind of understandable. I get it, right? I'm not a big Facebook user myself. I use Facebook in order to reach people, right? In order to get information on, because it's a good platform for that. I can do some of these briefings over on Facebook. I can do them over on YouTube Live. And I'd love to know from you guys what you think. What's the best platform for you? What should I be doing these briefings on? Because we can get into a lot more detail. I can show you video and snapshots and things in the briefing with the webinar that I can't do on the radio. So I like these. Some people have been begging for them now since we stopped. We did them last fall, but a new series starting now. Again, craigpeterson.com/webinar. You have a great week, and we may post some stuff this week. We'll see how it goes. I've been crazy busy, but at any rate, we'll be back with another Facebook Live next Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Take care. Bye-bye.